Is that correct, Procheta?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's a little bit foreign for us. Yeah, thanks a lot for joining. Procheta here is a very aspiring woman here for you girls to just follow. And she's a UI UXer from Canada. She's also GDG community lead. GDG stands for Google Developer Group. Am I right? Yeah, so it's a common organization that helps developers around the region and generally around the world to share their knowledge, their aspirations about Google technologies. So that's amazing to see a woman leading that organization, because usually it's mostly men, not necessarily being sexist or something. So yeah, thanks a lot, Procheta. I'm gonna pass it over to you, and yeah, well, looking forward to hear from you.
Thanks a lot for the introductions and for the awesome words. Like, yeah, it's obviously so, as you mentioned, like when it comes to like developer community and everything, you always like think like there will be like a male picture over there, but maybe like we can change that. And that's what like I'm trying to do, like from my student life, just being involved with the developer group and the women tech makers community. And I'm just trying my best from my side, like what I can do. And I guess like today I'm gonna share just a little bit of glance like of my journey about this community and the design work. So let me just share my screen. So I have like a few slides to share with you guys. So I need the permission to share my screen from the host.
You can do it now.
Okay, that's good. Thanks a lot. So, yep. So I'm just like saying a little bit like about like today's talk about this. So basically what I wanted to like focus on this talk is like about the UX design perspective, like from like anyone like who is not coming from a design background or who wants to transition to a UX or a design background. So I also like came from a like non-design background to this design field. So I wanted to share like my journey and my learnings to all of you so that you can also like get some like knowledge, like, and also I think like I'd be also able to like learn a lot of things from you, like from the audience who also like share the same kind of journey and who also have like a more inspiring journey like than me there could be. So I'm really interested to know that as well. So my name is Procheta Nag, and I'm a UI UX designer here in Canada. So I started working full-time permanent in this year. So so I want to share a little bit of background about me. And sorry, there is. So before that, before starting my full-time job, what I used to do, I used to study computer science and engineering. So that's totally a different field than design. I studied all those like engineering and like science, those kind of stuff throughout my whole undergraduate study. And from there, I also like published like a lot of paper, and I also like visited like different countries for conference and to present my papers. Because on that time I thought, okay, so since I'm studying computer science and engineering, so I want to be an engineer or scientist, something like that. But that changed later when I started studying my master's in human computer interaction. From there, I mainly got the inspiration of becoming a designer, and eventually I got the full-time UX design field, and I also like got a job right after my graduation from there. But beside my all academic things, like what is me is more about my community work. So I am a community lead of Google Developer Group, and I'm also ambassador of Women Techmakers. And I'm involved with Women Techmakers since 2015 when I was in my undergrad, like at the end of first year when I first joined into Women Techmakers, and since then I'm still with this. And also now I'm also an organizer and mentor of exchange with Google developers. So if you haven't heard about this, so this is just a new launched of the Google's community, the exchange with Google developers. So what they do, they provide you mentorship from the people around the world who are expert in like any of the certain fields or who are also familiar with any of the Google technologies. So anyone can be a mentee of the exchange with Google developers, and you can book a free mentorship with any one of the mentors. So it's a free win-win-win service for mentors and mentee as well. So don't miss the chance to get some free mentorship from any of the mentor, like whoever you like. And besides this, there's like another thing that is like totally mine. That's a career advice. That's also a community group. That's the thing, like I found it like probably like 2 years back. So I started doing this like because I feel so I am immigrant to Canada, so and I had been transitioned to different sort of career fields. So I thought like it's not just only me. There are also like a lot of people who also does the same kind of career journey. They like do different sort of experiments with different types of career, and then finally they choose one. Or it could be someone just want to transition, or someone might have laid out, or something just happened. So for this, like I started this community like the career vast, where I do like every week I organize the online session like from people from different sort of industry, and this like a 1 hour Facebook live career session where anyone can like ask any kind of question or anything to anyone. So there's the like mostly like about my community work that I do outside of my work. So mostly my weekend are booked with like either any one of this like community work as well. So now I'm just gonna starting like about the journey of the design. So how it started like about my design journey, because as you all know, so I studied like computer science and then ACI, then design. So it's a lot of things like going on. So basically it started from my childhood. So as from my childhood, I always loved drawing, painting and everything. And these are like some of my paintings from my childhood that I saved like very carefully from my childhood. But so in my country where I was from, so designing like it doesn't seems like could be a career to like any of the, especially for a women designing, it doesn't seems like to be a career. So if you're a woman, either you have to be a doctor or a teacher. That's the perfect job for a woman. So ultimately, when I was in like in my 7th grade, like my parents, they stopped going to my design school, and I started studying full time for my medical exam because my parents, they wanted me to be a doctor. So I started preparing for my medical exam, started reading all those biology, all those kind of stuffs, and the design, drawing, and everything that just got vanished. Like it feels like I'm not into this world anymore. And there is like the struggle between like the medical or engineering, like which one should I study. So but finally somehow like I studied for medical from my high school, but somehow I got into engineering. That's kind of like a tricky thing. And so when I was preparing for a medical exam and medical studies, so there's the one thing I liked, that like I had to do a lot of drawing about like a bone structure, those kind of stuff. That's why I kind of like the medical stuff, but I wasn't sure. Like I was just doing like whatever my parents was telling me. So study this or study that. I was just doing that. So that's what I was doing. I didn't even know like what I want to be, because I didn't even think about that, because I was thinking, okay, so whatever my parents are deciding, that's the best thing they are doing for me. So I don't need to think about my future or my career, like, or like anything. But And somehow like I got into like engineering. I got chance into computer science and engineering for my undergrad, and I started studying that. So when I started my computer science in my first year, I kind of like that because there's a lot of new things. So I was enjoying that. But as soon as it got like more kind of engineering, like wiring or hardware, those kind of stuffs, I felt like I don't want to study any of this anymore. Like I felt like, okay, I want to switch the subjects, or I don't like, I didn't feel like that. Like I really want to do it. I was just like reading just for being like passed for any of those subjects. But then there was a time like, or at the end of my second year. So and there's a course like computer graphics. So from there, I basically started liking these computer science subjects because in computer graphics, like on that subject, I had to like do some kind of designing or those kind of steps by coding. So, and I feel like, okay, so I can do some design or explore different kinds of graphics design or anything with that. So that's why like, and from then I started to like, okay, so I started to like more seriously studying the computer science subjects from there. And as soon as I got into my third year, there's a subject like web development, and from there I got like more fascinated into my study, because where I can actually do design steps, and that's not the regular my childhood drawing or painting those kind of design, but that's a more like a digital design, like a web design, where I could do design. And for me it felt like, okay, so now I can learn more design stuff. It felt like I got a canvas. So what I used to think, I remember like when I first like saw, okay, so how to make a website. So I used to follow like W3 schools that link a lot to learn the web designing steps. So I felt like, so at first there's just like a blank screen over here. So, and I have to add some colors and I have to add some different types of panel, those kind of steps. So I kind of started liking that. So, and I can do whatever design I can do with the programming. So just only for that time, I liked programming. But before that, all of those programming stuff was just a nightmare for me. I was just like, kind of, okay, so I have to pass my lab test. I have to do this assignment. So that's why just only I used to do like coding. But otherwise that, I was not like doing any coding practice or anything, because I didn't like those kind of stuff, because it just, I'm just writing. I can see anything. So for me, it was more like I like visual stuffs when I could see anything like visually, graphically represented. That's the thing that fascinated me most. So, and I was missing that in programming before that. But when I saw I could make visualization by programming, so that's when like I got like more interested into that. And since then I started making like website design and website development. And from here, as you can see, so when I was in a hackathon, there was like a national hackathon. I was there and I was making some wireframes. And it was like whenever there was any kind of group projects or contest or anything, so I was the only designer in my group. If there's like any kind of designer, I used to say, okay, so if you need to do any design, okay, just tell me. So I was doing all of those design works for free to anyone, like whoever needs to do any kind of design for a website or a mobile app or for anything. So I was just like, literally, I was asking to like all of those like other groups. So do you need to make any design? Do you need to like need any help on making design? So it seems like I was wasting my time, but I was actually liking doing those kind of design, because in my study like computer science, there's not so much a scope to design stuff or to learn that or to like do any sort of thing. So I was just looking for like everywhere to where I could do some of the design work. So in any hackathon or anywhere, like I was always like taking the design part and the presentation, making the presentation, all those kind of parts. And I also made on that time, like I also made a couple of like the freelancing front end development of the website. So I used to ask like all my seniors, like, hey, do you know, like, do you want to make any websites or anything? I was just like literally like disturbing like all of my seniors are, do you have any work that I can do? Like, so that's how like at first, like there's not so much a scope because obviously they're seniors and I'm the junior, so they didn't want to take any risks to give me some work. But somehow, like by doing at first, I did like a couple of works for free, but then I started like getting paid, but that's like very little amount. But at least like I was happy with that because I could do some like design and I could say to people that yeah, I make website and I can do front end design, something like that. So that is the most like satisfaction for me from that part. So that's the like I like kept my design passion and my design work like with me while I was studying computer science. But beside my studying or my front end development and everything, like somehow I got like interest into like clothing design. So as you can see, I designed like a lot of clothes and I also opened an online shop for my clothes design. So and there's so that's kind of a funny story. So in one of the projects, so we had to make a software that can turn into like a manual print to a digital print. So from there, I just mainly like somehow like while I was searching on internet, somehow I got to know about this kind of like online shop that where I can make designs and sell those products. So I started doing like the clothing design. So I was doing the front end design on one side, and on the other side, I was doing the clothing design in here. So, and I used to take photographs and sometimes like illustration, or sometimes I used to do hand painting and turns them into digital design and then put into like clothing design. So it's basically like I was just trying to do like whatever I can do just to do some design works. I know I wasn't best on that time, but I tried my best on that time. And maybe I have sold like 2 or 3 of my products have been sold from this website on that time. And on that time, that was a huge success for me because I sold 2 products from my online store from my design. It felt like I got kind of like some kind of scholarship or like I got a like huge success. So that was like another of my design exploration on that time I did. But and then there comes like a time when I had to decide what I want to do next because I was almost graduating from my computer science degree. So, and the next step is so since I couldn't be a doctor, so then the next choice of my parents was to for me to become a professor. So, and for being a professor, after graduating from a bachelor, I have to do a master's and a PhD. So then I was looking for my master's, like where I can do my master's or anything. So there's like one thing I looked for is that like, is there any kind of design degree or anything where I can do my master's? Like, I know I have to do my PhD and be a professor or faculty, but still I try to like stay in touch with design and this kind of fields. So from there, like I looked into like a couple of fields and a couple of subjects like which are like kind of related to design. So from there, I found the human computer interaction like that was kind of related to like design because on that time since all of my surroundings were like the computer science people, so I didn't also like get that much information about like design, like what kind of course of subjects would be good for a master's degree to be a designer or anything. So all that time I also didn't know like there could be a subject like interaction design or anything where I can do my master's. So the best I found from my research is the human computer interaction. So I got into like in that for my master's in here in Canada. And when I started my master's, it seems like At first, I thought like, okay, so it's a human-computer interaction. And when I looked into the university, I see like, okay, so they do a lot of design. They have a lot of design subjects. And so I think like, okay, so I will take all those design subjects and be like a very well designer. But when I started my study, yeah, it just totally opposite because for masters, there is no design courses and you cannot take any design courses from undergrad. So I felt like, oh my God, what should I do now? So, and that was kind of like a situation when I felt like, did I make any mistake? Should I change my subject once again? But that was like too late. Like I had all my admission and everything is completed, and I didn't have the courage like to tell anyone that this is the thing. That's why I want to change the subjects. So I end up like studying that human computer interaction, but on the way when I was like studying that, I feel like there's a lot of things like beside the design that I need to know to be a designer. That's when I got to know about the research, and that's called like the design through research. So whatever the design is made from research, that design is more sustainable and feasible than the design that just comes out just from our mind and we just implement that. And from my like human computer interaction study, I got to know like the strategy and all those like ethical issues and everything about like the human-centered design, like what are the things we need to consider to design any kind of product for human, and what kind of like research we could do, like for example like qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methodology, and also the user testing techniques like interview, surveys, or ethnography. So I got to learn all those things from my study, and like everything I did like hands-on study. I remember like I had to go to like for my course study, I had to go to different kinds of libraries to do the observation of the participants. I had to stay there all day long. And so it was like doing like all those kind of study just in hand, not just like reading, like, so how can I do the interviews or how can I do the survey? So, and in one of my study, I had to literally like do a survey of like 180 or 81 people. So I need to do survey to all those peoples, and I had to take interview of like 35 people. So that is just got for like one study. So there are like a lot of study that I had to do where I got to like use all of those different sort of like design strategies and techniques like in real hand. And but beside that, there's like the another part that I liked about this my master's, and that is by my teaching. And why I like this teaching, because this teaching is the actual steps. From there I learned design. I know it may sound like crazy, like, okay, so I was teaching, but how come I'm learning? And that is the thing I learned by teaching. So how is it possible? Because I remember my first course that I taught was like web design and development, because that was my comfort and my strength from my undergrad. So I know all of this programming and web design and development, like I had a lot of experience. So I started teaching with that course. I taught that course like for 1 semester, and by this time I looked for like other design courses from the undergrad, that what are the design courses that I want to pick. So what I did, beside my study and my research work and my teaching work, I spent like extra time to learn all of those course material that I want to teach. So I literally like studied like, so what kind of tools they use. I practiced that. So I remember like that course, they use like Exure and Sketch, and I had no idea about those tools. So I learned those two tools like the previous semester, and I learned, okay, so what are those like the terms and techniques of those course content? So I just Googled that and I learned like a few of the items over there so that at least like when I'm applying for that, I could say something that I know this and this and this and stuff. So that's why for my second course, from there, I actually got the first, like the pure design course. And that was like an information design course. And it was like a massive design course where I had to teach like how we can do like the survey and user study to the users and get their feedback, analyze those data, and from those data, how we can make a wireframe of any kind of websites or apps, and how we can build a prototype, how can we do interactions, and how can we test that, and all those like how can I do the heuristic evaluation, like everything from A to Z about like the information design cycle. And while teaching that course, like most of the time it seems like there are like a lot of terms or techniques that I don't even know. So I used to like stay like late night at my campus, like 12 o'clock at 1 o'clock till night in my campus, just to learn all of the stuff that I have to take next day. So I it seems like I had to teach those items and then teach to my students. So I was like literally like spending like double hours within that. And for that, like I didn't even feel any pressure because for me, I for me, the main advantage was that I am able to learn all of these stuff that I couldn't able to learn like during all of those years. At least like in here, I got all of these scopes where I could learn all of this. And like, I also know what the teachers are actually teaching to all of these students to make them as a designer, and what are the things that designers need to know to be able to settle down in the industry. So that's why I did never get bored like teaching any of these design courses. And it's just always like I used to like use my previous semester to learn all of this new stuff so that I could apply to a new design course to the next semester and I get approved to teach that course. So by doing that, so I had taught like almost like 2 or 4 months, and I taught 8 design courses to undergraduate students, and I had like more than like 75 plus students in each of my courses. And like it's like almost like more than 1,000 students like from like 2 or 4 months like to whom I teach all of those design courses. And by doing all of these design courses, like mainly I learned about like a lots of different kinds of tools like Figma, Sketch, like and all different sorts like Adobe products, like from After Effects to Animator to InVision and to Premiere Pro, like video editing tools. And even I also teach one like photography course because I wanted to learn about the design part of that as well. So I had to little learn, okay, so what is the like the best part of composition of doing any kind of photography? What is the digital image composition technique, and how to make a graphic novel, how to make a user story, so how to draw like illustration, like everything. So all those things I learned and then I teach to my students. And it was kind of tricky because sometimes like there's like kind of a question the students are asking, okay, so why are you doing this, why aren't you doing that? And it could happen that I don't know the answers, so because I'm not an expert on that field. So but I used to always write all of those questions and I'd say them, okay, so I don't know now, but I can learn and like tell you in my next class. So what I used to do when I just come back home, I just used to like study, like, so why did they say that? And what is that? So study and explore all of these. And like on the next day, I used to tell them. So that's why like I also got to learn more because whenever like just imagine like 75 students, they're asking me 70 different types of questions. So, and I had to study and analyze all of these questions and answer them. So it seems like after one course, like I know like everything about Figma, or I know everything about After Effects because there's like a lot of question and I solved a lot of problem to the students. So there's nothing that I don't know now about this tool or about this technique. So that's why I know like that was like a huge struggling time for me when I was doing that, because on that period of time, so I had my teaching for 2 days, and there's like a 2 or 3 days for my own courses study, and 2 days were for my research work. And beside that, I used to do like also some kind of like the freelancing work or like anything kind of work. So it seems like 7 days a week, I'm always doing something. So I didn't have a weekend for the last 2 years. And when I saw my friends like they are going to a beach or going for a hiking, and I say, no, I have a meeting with my students. Oh no, I have a deliverable to my client or something like that. So it was me the 2 years, like it feels like I'm always like stuck into my table and my laptop. But there's also another like very interesting things you can see. There's again like the clothing design that comes back to me. And this is started like this. So like I said, like fill in gaps. And why I say that, because I learned like all of those design tools, so strategy, front end design, everything. But what I didn't know well, that is the illustration and the graphics design steps. Because I have never like get any chance to use any of those tools or like study any of the subjects or anything in my entire life. So that field was totally unknown to me. So and in one course, I was teaching one course like that's called the digital image design. So there I had to teach the students how they can make visualization, graphics design, and all those kind of like the graphic novel, how they can draw that. I need to teach them illustration and Photoshop to make all those visualizations. So from there, I learned like all of those visualization and graphics design steps, and to practice that. And somehow like in one day, I just started, okay, so I'm just started like making a logo of any kind of design just to practice illustrations. But while doing like a couple of things, like, and then again, I realized that, okay, so how it feels like if I just make a logo and just use it in a t-shirt, how that looks like, make a graphic tee or something like that. So that's when started like those again, the clothing design interest hobby that comes back. So I used to like design like all of those like graphics and like make all of those graphic tees and t-shirts and hoodies design and all of those, and started like selling those like online. And from there, like luckily, like I also got like a couple of like work from there. Like I got a couple of like, logo design work or anything from there, because I used to share like all of my design to Reddit and Behance and all of the other places. So, and from there, like sometimes like people then ask me, okay, so can you make this design for me, or can you design this hoodie for me? So I also used to do this like for part time, just to like practice all of those kind of steps. Because as long as I am doing this just by myself, that is one thing. But when I'm doing this for a client who wants to sell these items in the actual market, that's when comes the challenge, because that's when I know that what is my design standard. Like, is it good to compete in the market, or is it just some kind of fancy design that no one cares about? So that's when I got to know like some of the like the standard and like couple of like strategies and issue, like what are the things like we need to consider doing visualization for any kind of market product. So, and then there goes a time, so when I have like all of this, but I was actually not sure like what I want to do. Because in previous, so it was fixed that after finishing my master's, I have to do a PhD. But in one day, like when the pandemic started and last year, I remember like one of my friend, like he was doing some of the courses from Udacity, like they are giving a lot of course for free, and he knew that I do like some kind of design works and I am very interested into that. So that time he recommended me about this like Udacity user experience nano degree course that you can just try and do it. And I feel like, okay, so since this lockdown, I have a lot of free time in my hand, like sitting down in my home. So I started doing that course. And finally, I started liking that course so much. And it was a 3 month course, but I finished that within 27 days. So what I used to do basically, I used to like sit on my laptop like whole day long, like all day and night until I finish my assignment. It seems like I'm giving an exam. So, and when I like finished everything, I see like, okay, so it's just 27 days and I finished everything. I have nothing left to do. So I finished. And from there, I mainly like got to know like a little bit of like the job industry and job sides about the UX design, because before that I wasn't like not so much into doing a job or like going into industry, because I thought like, okay, so I have to follow my parents' decision, do a PhD and just then be a faculty. But from there, like this looks something, okay, so it seems kind of interesting, like can I try that? This comes up, but still I wasn't sure that I want to do a job instead of quitting my PhD. So after doing this course, and then I also like started like reading about UX design job, like how can I get a job on that field or anything, because I saw like, so all of those like the UX research and the design research part, that's what already I know from my master's study. And I know like a lot of like I have already learned a lot of design stuff by teaching as well. So it seemed like it could be like a perfect fit for my job, but I was still hesitating like to actually like go into that field. And then I did like 2 more courses from like Coursera, like the user experience research and design, that one, and UX design. I finished those 2 courses also just to know like, okay, so let's see like how much I don't know yet, because I cannot obviously like justify my learning just by doing one courses. So then like after I did like all of the 3 courses, then I felt like this could be like a strong point for me to be a designer. But there was just some kind of issues is that, so once we're done like doing all of these courses, it feels like, okay, so we know everything now, we don't need to do anything. But instead of that, so when I was like watching like other YouTube tutorials and everything, from there I heard this thing like first, that there's like a guy who said like, so the biggest mistakes we do like is that like we finished a course, then we feel like we know everything, then we don't touch anything about that course, then we again comes back to our ground zero, and that's why we need to do another courses. So from that, like that is kind of inspiring for me. So that's why I never like stopped like learning about design or anything, even after doing all of those 3 courses. So they're like some of my go-to reading materials that I usually like followed, like to do like a little bit of reading like every day to get to know about the UX design part. And also for learning more about like the design, like what the other designers are doing, or what is the current design trend, and what is the scale or standard that I have to be for. That's why I usually followed like Behance. That's a really good place to see like what the other designers around the world they are doing. And the Dribble is kind of the same, but I mostly followed Behance. But I also like was like literally like explore Dribble sometimes. And for the design system learning, like I read like the theoretical knowledge of the design systems, but to like know more like how they actually make designs, how the companies and industry who are already in the market, how they use the design system. So that's why I used to read the material design guideline from Google and the Fluent UI from Microsoft. I used to like study like those, like how they do that and how they make it, like all those kind of stuffs from there. And there are like a couple of like tools that I used to like practice, like at least like I used to like practice any of those tools like every day. If it's like, if I'm get bored of like practicing Designox and Figma, then I was doing something in After Effects, like doing like alternatively so that I don't like get bored or anything, just like keep my hands on to any of those design tools every day. So these are some of my go-to tools that I practice like on that time. But and within that, like, so when I had like, I felt like I had like a little bit of handy like experience on that time, and I started looking for like the actual work. So actual work, why I need that, because it could like actually shape and improve my experience that I had learned throughout this course, throughout this teaching, because all of those are like the theoretical knowledge like that I am learning. But until I actually like talk to any of those client or like launch my product in the market, I don't know like that my, if my design is sustainable or how people are reacting to my design. So that's why I used to look for design work in Reddit and Behance and like all those other places. I used to post like, say, this is my design samples, like if you have any work or anything. So from there, I got like a couple of design works. So, and also besides that, I used to like do like, this are called like passion projects. So it's mainly kind of like practicing design work. So mostly like, so just take any of those existing products and analyze those and see what is the fault or issue with that product and how you can improve that within your creativity. So that's what the passion project is mainly about. So I also did a couple of passion projects. So this is one of the passion projects, like I added like a couple of new features with the Amazon Alexa app. So also some of the other things. And there's like just a few examples of like some of my contract project that I actually did with the clients. But obviously I also had to do like a couple of projects for free, like before getting actually paid. Like I had to like tell them, okay, so see, I can make you a website for free. If you like that, then you can give me like another one of your works. So that's how like I was doing some kind of volunteer projects, and in return I was getting some kind of like the paid work. So this is kind of my strategy of that. So there comes again the situation like when I was almost at the end of my master's degree. So what should I do now? So I remember it was just like 4 months remaining to finish my master's defense. And on that time, I was still confused, like, should I get into a job or look for a job, or like, do I continue PhD, or do I just continue be a faculty, or just get into industry, get some hands-on experience? And the most critical part was to decide that, do I want to be a researcher or do I want to be a designer? Because all my background from my master's and from my publications, they are more inclined to design researcher or UX researcher. But what I actually like, the design part that I learned from my teaching and from my freelancing work and my side projects. So, and it happened like to Huber, like I used to like get consultation. I used to ask, like, used to tell me, oh, so you have a lot of resource experience, so you should be a good researcher. Just try for research work. But to me, like, yeah, I have a lot of research experience, but I don't want to be a researcher. Like, that's not the thing. Like, I see myself doing, but I, instead of that, I want to be a designer. And if there is anything that I don't know yet about being a designer, I'm more than happy to learn that. Just tell me like what I am missing still to be a designer. But on that time, everyone was just, oh, that's a critical question. So maybe you should do like a design bootcamp, or you don't have a design degree, so it's not possible. So there are like 99% were the negative comment, like who were like used to like give any kind of feedback, like don't be a designer, just be a researcher. There are a lot of designer out there. You don't have a design degree, you don't have a design background, so you won't sustain or you won't get a job there. So that was a very like frustrating situation for me, but I felt like still I want to like try my hands onto design. So that's when what I used to do when I was looking for any kind of jobs on that time, I used to just like compare my experience with all of those job requirements just to like, so there are like some of the key points that I used to follow while I was like looking for a job to make my resume and my portfolio, that what about the requirements they're asking and how much do I have? Like there's like a checklist I used to follow. So, and if there is like nothing, then I think like, okay, so I'm good. But if there's anything that I see, okay, so I still know that part it. Like I used to like try my best to learn that things from online and internet and from YouTube. So by doing that, like finally I decided, okay, so I'm gonna get my hands on and just try. Like if I cannot be a designer, then what the worst thing could happen? Like I have to come back to my academic and just start my PhD again. So that's the worst part could happen. But if I don't take the chance now, then once I will finish my PhD 5 years later, then there will be no option to move my field from a researcher to a designer. So I took the risk and I started making my portfolio. And from there, like while making my portfolio, what I used to follow is like, so I just collected all of my projects. So how many projects do I have? And from there, I just chose 3 main projects that I used to feature on my portfolio. And also I select like a layout of my website. So how my website should look like. And depending on that, like a style. So I followed like a consistent layout and color throughout all of those my website. And from there, you can see like a few examples. So this is my website when I was just a computer science graduate, when I had like almost like no idea about UX and what it could be. But this is what my website, what I made like when I was applying for job, like before like my master's defense. So there's not so much difference, but there is a still difference. So that's the thing. So in here, so I have highlighted the keyword, like I know it's very tiny, but I'm still like trying to like explain. So I have highlighted the keyword that the readers, they need, that I want them to read, so that if anyone like comes into this website, so oh my god, that's a lot of text, so which one should I focus on, what best describe me? There's no way to identify that just within 10 seconds. And the recruiters or hiring managers, they usually don't spend like 10 to 20 seconds more time to read about you when they first land into your website. So there I have highlighted so my experience and my background. So even if they don't do any other stuff, so when they first land in, they'll know my name. Okay, so what is me about? So computer science, design teaching, research, and multidisciplinary designer. So basically, that's the thing. I want the recruiters and other people to know about me to give me that job. So, but from here, like there's no way to know that. So there is, and also there's like a quick contact list from here I have highlighted. So if they want to send me an email, or if they want to like look into me into the LinkedIn, or if they want to see any of my work, so they can also see that from here. So it is not so much different, but it makes it different to the people who you want to like showcase yourself. So that's when I got like made my portfolio for my job. And finally, obviously, I applied to a couple of jobs, but when I first just started applying for job, I didn't even know like how to apply for job, where to apply for job. I used to like apply for like, okay, so Google Jobs, Indeed, LinkedIn, like everywhere. But then slowly by doing this, I learned so what could be the best strategy to apply for jobs over there. And I just like learned by mistakes from there. And I haven't like applied for like a lot of jobs. I see like people like post for they applied for 700 and 500 jobs. So, but what I used to do, I used to just apply for like in every day. I used to like comes to like LinkedIn or Indeed and see like what are the new jobs for today. And I used to see like follow my checklist. So how much experience matches with me and how much do I have. So from there, like whenever I had like a certain criteria, like whenever I saw like, so the checklist fills at like more than 80% on that time, only then I used to apply. So it seems like sometimes it seems like, so 1 week I applied for every day for like 2 or 3 jobs each day, but next week I see there is no jobs that is similar to my standards. So I didn't apply for the next week. So I just followed this pattern. So for like 3 months, and within that time I got like a couple of interview and like and everything, and I got 3 interviews that I got into the final round. And from there, in one like where I am in, I got in. So that is kind of like my job apply process from my journey. But one of the main takeaway from here was for me was that is that, so whenever someone like used to ask me, for example, if someone used to ask me, so what do you know about impact, or what do you know about X or Y? So my answer was like, if I knew that, that's well, but if I didn't knew, so I didn't say like, so okay, no, I don't know that, because that's not who I am. So the best I am, like I'm always eager to learn. So I used to say like, I don't know nothing, but I haven't touched that field yet, but I'm willing to learn. So that's what me about. So I may not know everything, but I'm always ready to learn. So that's what the thing that keeps me moving from my childhood to here to like exploring and like taking risks. And finally, I'm a designer. I'm working full time, permanent in a company, and that's what really I wanted. And I got that like through like all of those like risks and like all of those kind of things. So this was kind of like my journey that I wanted to share with you all. But um, so if anyone has any questions, I'm just feel free to like answer any of your questions or anything.
Yeah, that's amazing actually. I love the presentation and your
Yeah.
aspiration and like your love for people and for UI UX in general. Just like 2 years of no weekends, so relatable. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think we can have accept questions. So we have people raising hands. Merritt, you want to ask question?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you so much for the presentation. I was wondering, how was important your portfolio while you was applying for jobs? I know that for UX UI, like the perfect portfolio, how they say, is has a huge impact, especially on the first steps, I could say, when you're applying and just to get selected. So I was just wondering, how long did it take and how it was important for you, like your portfolio in your case?
Yeah, so that's kind of good question. Like thanks like Beirut for asking this question. So obviously as a designer, so you have to have a portfolio to showcase your work. And for job searching, this is one of the main requirements, that you have to have a portfolio, because whenever you apply for a job, you have to drop your CV and your portfolio And or even if like if you show someone like that wants to hire you, they wants to see your portfolio. Like for designers, they don't look at the CV first. At first, they look at your portfolio website, and it could be like even if you don't have like a website or capability of making that, you could use like the Behance or any kind of other platform or Adobe XD portfolio to showcase your work. But you have to have a portfolio because whenever the recruiters or hiring managers or any people, they wants to know about you. It's not like that they wants to know about your background or they wants to know your personality. They wants to know about your design, and they wants to know about your creativity. And how they can see that? They can see that through your portfolio, because your portfolio showcase like all of your creativity and all those kind of things that you know are you can do. And from there, like if they see, okay, so this person has like a lot of hands-on to a lot of different kinds of things. Now I want to know more how she did this or how she do all of these steps. And that's when they call you for an interview to know how did you make that design, or like what makes you making those designs. So it's more like the portfolio that gives you the impression to the like recruiters to make you standards that you know or you can do designs. And the interview is for they want to know the details and background of your design.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Actually, I have another question if we have time.
Sure, should it?
Thanks. Yes, another question. So the problem that I faced, basically right now I'm in the process creating my portfolio, and my question is, where did you find actual like companies for whom you created like real showcases?
Okay, so to finding like all of those my contract work. So I used to like, as I mentioned, so whatever the design I used to make, I used to follow on Reddit and Behance and on LinkedIn just to share my design. So from there, I actually like got a couple of response from Reddit. From there, like, and that was kind of like a couple of like the voluntary work. But out of those like voluntary work, from there, I actually got my first paid work. And so that is one. And from Behance, I also got one work from Behance as well. And beside that, I used to like ask like all of my friends and family, like whoever I know, like, do you want to make anything like websites or app like or anything? And the another thing that I used to do, so I used to like follow like analyze the website of my local like business. So one day I used to like, okay, so let's see like how many restaurants are in here. So I used to like go to their websites and see who has the most crappy website. So I used to like make a note, and I used to like that called kind of like cold emailing. So I tried to like call them, but then I realized, so if I call them, only the like the waiter or they will receive the call. So that's not gonna
Right.
work. So what I used to do, like I used to like take a screenshot and like write a couple of notes. See, I noticed that this is kind of steps, but I can improve this and this, and that will improve your sales, because all they want to know about how they can make their sales and how they can earn more money. They don't care about the design or website or anything, right? So
Yes.
I used to make like 5 points to this, and I used to like, if I see their websites or email that kind of things like from the website, I used to like email those to them. And from there, I also got like one work. I actually got like two work from there, but one work that didn't like come through. Like in the midway of the work, they said, no, I don't want to make the websites anymore, like or anything. And on that time, as kind of new, so I couldn't even bargain to them. So since I didn't even make any ND or anything, that okay, so you have to give me money, whatever the work I have done or anything. So that was just kind of best. But the other one that did work.
I see. Thank you so much, and thank you for going into the details of your journey. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. No worries.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? You can message them, or you can just like raise your hand, same as Mirror did. Yeah, I have a quick question. What's your personality type? Did you do 16 personalities?
Me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Like, what's my personality type?
Yeah, 16 personalities. Have you done that?
So for me, I'd say like, so there's like one thing like I didn't mention about this presentation, like that I definitely like if I get a chance, I have to mention that. So for us as a designer, we should always reflect our personality through our work. And from there, the personality type, like it could be anything. So, and how you can like express that through a design. So while we're making any designs, there is like lots of colors, lots of typography fonts or anything. And that could like help you to represent your personality. So in my final portfolio website, like kind of a pink and blue kind of like color tone. It feels like, and I get this question a lot too. Why there's a pink? Because it doesn't seem like professional or it doesn't seem like more corporate, but I kept the pink color because I'm a kind of like a feminist, that kind of person, because I work for women empowerment. So I don't have any doubt. And the pink, it represents kind of a more like a feminine, girly type of color. And the blue is more like represents the warm and the trust and the friendly vibe. So that's why like throughout all of my like the portfolio and my case study, there's always like a pink and blue theme. And even if in my interview, like they also ask me like, okay, so why did you choose this color for your portfolio? So there is a kind of a thing like for us as a designer, we need to always like make sure like you don't even know what kind of question the interviewer will ask you. So whatever the designs you make, just make sure you know that every logic or every kind of design decision of your design.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for sharing. I think it's actually interesting on how different UI UXers have different kind of overview into things, and you would see different kind of style and you could see the personality, the sensing that, you know, like I will see the designs. I don't know if it's you or not, but I might guess it because I know you love this type of designs and stuff. That's interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? Oh yeah, Madina, I think you passed a question. You can actually ask it here.
Oh, okay, sure. So I had a question. It was related to the previous answer. So how do designers leave their like soul or maybe parts of their soul in their designs? Or should they like follow some templates and do it like universal with no soul and so on? It was just like worrying me.
Yeah, that's a good question. So you mean like for template for like template for what? For making portfolio or for making own design work? Or is it like in general, like for making anything? Like, do you want to know like for anything like particular?
Yes, it's like, for example, when you are doing some job for someone, and like you are a designer, and all designers, even UX designers, they are associated for me with like creative minds, like they are artists too. So how, and I know that for artists, the main goal is to express themselves, and maybe yeah, and the question is here, like how do you express yourself in your work, or do you like value self-expression in your work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like in industry or in the work, so it's just always like more about, so the first priority is like how like you can finish the work within that deadline, and that's the one thing you should always like prioritize. And after that you have to prioritize all of the other things. So for example, in my case, so in my work, so in any of my work, there's like the some of the things that I use like always follow that better express me, my work type, and my strategy through each of the work. For example, like So whenever I start like doing any kind of designs or any kind of projects that I start, at first, like what I do like is to like take a lot of notes of like gather a lot of requirements that is necessary for me to do my design work. Like it could be anything like the meeting records or like the interview or like the meeting talks or any kind of screenshot or anything. So there is one thing that I always follow as my design strategy. So this comes, so like it's kind of like some kind of, so if you're kind of like the organized person, you like everything being organized and clean and documented. So it's more comes from that kind of personality, that what kind of person you are. So that's the thing I also like try to implement in my work as well. And there the thing comes like, so when I was doing design, like from the very first part, like I tried to like make it like, so like more like not like perfect, like I try to like make this design so that I don't need to like redo it like so many times. Like I don't do that things like, okay, so I will just do a little bit of draft now, but I will check it out like later, or I'll redo it. Like after doing that, I will come back and do this. Like I don't do this. So I just follow like a process that, okay, so once I'm done completing part A, then I'll move to part B. So that also expresses you that, yeah, you are like following kind of like a chain of command, or you have your own process of doing the work. But I see like with me, so like some others like they didn't do, like they work like, okay, so when they start doing this first week, they just do everything just on draft version, and the next week they comes back and then start refining on those like everything. But that's their personality. But for my personality is that like I follow a process and I do like this kind of way. But these are all kind of like a variable to express your work type, your personality through your work. Like, because the main thing is the deadline. If you have to follow your deadline and you think like, okay, so I don't have time to follow any of my process or any of my strategy, I need to finish it as soon as possible, then you need to forget about your personality and your work time. So because the ultimate goal is the deadline. So it's just like defending like different types of situation that helps you to like choose your process or choose your personality, like how you can implement those in those work environment.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Procheta. And a little bit running out of time. We have our next speaker lined up. So thanks a lot for sharing. And it was an amazing talk. I think for all of the people here, they would love to kind of find ways to connect with you and maybe ask questions afterwards. So if you could share your socials.
Yeah, sure. Like, sorry, I should have like shared it like earlier. So like you can always find me on LinkedIn. It's my the same link name is Procheta. I am always active on LinkedIn, but in Twitter, I'm not that much active, but I have it. So if you want to have like any question or anything, just feel free to like ping me on LinkedIn. I'm always there like full time. Like, so I would also like love to connect with like all of you.
Cool. So all of you, go ahead and
Yeah.
send your connection request to Procheta. All right, then. Thanks a lot. It was really insightful. We are very happy to have you here and looking forward for the panel discussion later if you're joining. So yeah, thanks a lot. Let's move on then. And Procheta, do you have any last words?
I just like want to thank you, like all of those, like all of you guys, like you are just doing a really amazing job, that you are like doing something like really great, that for those like who doesn't have that much opportunity to find any kind of like the paid steps or anything, but they have the interest to learn more and you are giving them the platform. That's really amazing. Like I really appreciate that. And I also like want to thanks to all of this audience, like who has this kind of interest and this kind of like the passion to learn new things. So just keep it up and you'll definitely reach your goal.
Thanks a lot. I'm gonna cry.
Don't cry.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right then. Bye. Procheta,
Okay,
thanks.
bye. See
Yeah,
you.
bye.
Thanks a lot.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Aza, are you here? Are you with us?
I